I would guesstimate 12 inches by
Did you chip it?
3.5 to 4 inches.
Did you chip it?
No,
Is it chipped?
it's not chipped.
Ah,
I'm gonna chip your face. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What's wrong with that?
I want to chip your face. All right. Chef Fabric, what up?
What up, PITMASTERX? It's been a week. I've missed you.
I miss you too, man. I'm a little pumped. I took my power nap this afternoon and I'm all excited. So I'm here to introduce Chef Eric Gebhardt, the culinary expert, the viral magic maker, the guy that invents culinary dishes. E-Money, what up?
Not much, and it is my distinct pleasure to introduce my good friend, the Sultan of Smoke, YouTube phenomena, PITMASTERX. How are you, brother?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great introduction. And everybody that's listening, welcome to the Fired Up Barbecue Podcast, where we just have fun and talk about barbecue. Basically, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, not just barbecue. Welcome to episode. Is it 6?
Six.
We've made it. That's half.
This is going to be a problem. Later on, this is going to be a problem. When we get to like 30 or something, we can't remember which one it is.
You think we'll make it to 30?
I don't know. We're getting better at this.
We are. I'm just worried about, all these barbecue secrets and famous pitmasters we're calling out on episode 1 through 4. I think we're doing a pretty good job of not making anybody angry yet, but there's some stories to come, bro. I mean, episode 2, amazing. 3, 4, and then to 1. If you haven't started, if you're just starting with us right now, go back to episode 1, catch up real quick. Again, we're just at episode 5. We have had some laughs, some cries, some social distancing, and now today, I want to introduce PITMASTERX to the lightning round. People have been sending me questions, asking me to ask you certain things, and I'd like to run them by you. But I don't want to give you time to think about it. I just boom, 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 lightning round.
Oh, go ahead. Fire it up.
PITMASTERX, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go. Drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please. So, lightning round question number 1. Japanese or German steel? Talking about knives here.
German.
Oh, yeah, wunderbar. Wagyu or USDA Prime? Talking about beef here.
USDA Prime.
We got to circle back on these. Chicken or seafood? For the rest of your life, if you had to go one or the other, would you do chicken dishes?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Not just fish. I roped in seafood there, so that's shellfish as well.
Okay. So any seafood or chicken? Yeah. Any seafood.
Yeah, no brainer. Long walks on the beach or sunrise hikes in the mountains?
It's a personal question. You want to take me on a hike?
That one's for me. Yeah, I want to hold your hand. That was for me. Lightning round.
Long walks on the beach.
I'll see you there, buddy. Quick sear or low and slow? For the rest of your life, you can only do one.
Quick sear.
One is it?
Quick sear.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
This one goes a little bit different. So I want to hear your answer. I don't want you to think about it. I want you to give me an answer. Easiest way to cook a brisket. Boom.
Hot and fast.
Hot and fast?
Yeah. Just put it on 140 degrees Celsius. Boom. Go.
Trimming or no trimming on that brisket?
No trimming.
No trim, hot and fast. Okay, good combo. Favorite cut of pork to grill?
Iberico Secreto.
Oh, like the one we recorded. The very first recording we ever did. And you had to delete it because you forgot to hit the audio on. At last but not least, this is lightning round number 1. We've never done this before. White wine or red wine with beef?
Red wine, definitely.
I threw you some softballs there just to get you used to the idea.
Yeah.
So most of these are drummed up from listeners, and they've shot us DMs. If you have questions you'd like to hear me ask PitMasterX for lightning round number 2, that'll be episode 6 next week. Shoot them to me on Instagram at Eric Gephardt, or send them over to PitMasterX. PitMasterX, what's your preferred platform for taking questions like this?
On my Facebook page, PitMasterX. Just look it up on Facebook, and you will find it there. Just send me a little comment, a private comment, and then we'll take it up from there. We'll find it. Don't worry about it.
You'd mentioned German steel. Walk me through that. I've been to your house. You've got more knives than anybody I've ever known in my entire life. Beautiful selection of all types. Tell me about your choice there with German steel.
The thing is, I'm a guy that uses things like it's a tool. You know, I have to use it. So if I'm using a knife and I'm using it in a kitchen, it's gonna drop to the floor at some point. I'm not the guy that puts it down gently and it's gonna stay there. There's activities going around, things flying around in the kitchen. It's hectic. There's something going to happen. It's going to hit a chicken bone. It's going to do something. I need to be able to cut things. And if I use Japanese steel, it's going to be destroyed. So Japanese steel is really nice for slicing cucumbers. I love it. But if it comes to work and longevity, I'll take German any day.
Yeah, and you see the angles of the knives a bit different too. Like sometimes you'll go from a German steel 23 to 26 degree angle blade to a Japanese steel, sometimes 16 degrees, right?
Yes.
And that makes it more brittle, sharper, but more brittle.
Yes, and what the Germans did, they used to have these really heavy, strong knives, and they changed it. So they came around to where they made their steel harder, and they changed the angles a little bit more. So they still have that strong knife because they will always go for durability. But they also are working on keeping that edge for a longer period of time and having a good product. So, but there's a lot of difference between German knives, and it's the same thing with Japanese knives. But we're talking about good knives, good quality knives. And if you're talking about a good quality knife, if you buy a good German quality knife, you will have it for the rest of your life. You can hand it down to your children, and they can hand it down to their children, and it still will not be worn down.
That's an interesting thing you bring up. A lot of the stuff we do in barbecue is about lineage, and I think, is it the same in the Netherlands as it here as it is in the U.S.? When I was growing up in a whole hog community, we did a lot of whole hog cooking competitions. It was almost like if you weren't brought up doing it, there was this secret brethren kind of deal where if you don't know, nobody's going to tell you. And I really didn't like that about barbecue. It made it almost unapproachable, but we're in a new era now here in the U.S. where useful is the new cool. So like sharing is a beautiful thing, and it's people are really embracing it. Is it the same where you are?
It's kind of twofold. We started out with a lot of sharing and a lot of people getting excited. Then it's about a community. We got to share, and now what you see at the competition is happening. Everybody closes up their tents. And I used to love competitions. I went to every competition because it was so much fun to go to. And you were talking to everybody and looking in the tent, see what they're doing, see the different techniques. And for the audience, it was absolutely fantastic. A big feast to watch, getting the team, seeing how hard they're working to get their products out. And nowadays, they're closing up the tent. They don't want to tell their secrets. But basically, the secret is the skills of the pitmaster. You can't replicate that. Even if you see it done, if you don't have it, if you didn't train that hard, you're not going to be able to reproduce it. So why are you worried about sharing? What do you think that's going to happen? Somebody's going to look at you and going to do the same thing. He will be able to instantly do it. I don't believe that.
I'm going to put an emotional call out there and this doesn't just go across the barbecue spectrum. This spans culinary in general. If you got a grandma out there, if you got a grandfather and they're still with you, and they got that one thing that you crave every holiday or whatever it might be, get in there, get in the kitchen with them, do it with them. Don't just straight up ask for the recipe. Get in there and do it with them.
Yeah. It will stay with you much longer than a written down recipe, because that paper will disappear, or you'll lose it or whatever. And you will always have that memory of that one special dish and how he made it. You might miss out on a secret, but you will make it your own over time, and it's going to be even better. So, yeah, and I totally agree.
I'll give you a little hint, too. When you're looking through these recipe albums and anthems that your grandparents have, the ones that have the stains on them are going to be the best ones.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Those are the best ones.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's kind of cool. I love that idea. I love that idea.
I tell the story of my grandmother handing me down a recipe, and it was a prime rib. Okay, and that is a special cut. For us, prime rib, and I'm sure it's the same with you, that's a New Year's dish. That's a families coming together. That's a special high-dollar cut that, we didn't do on a regular Friday night, And so the recipe called for cutting the prime rib. It was a 6-bone prime rib, cutting the prime rib in half, and then putting them one in front of the other, and then putting them into the oven, because it wasn't a grill then; it was an oven with my grandmother. And I did it for years. My grandmother passed away. I never asked her why cut it in half. I figured it was a time-saving thing. When I asked my mother, she looked at me and she says, "You don't remember your grandmother's oven?" I was like, "No." She was like, "It was tiny." The recipe called for cutting the damn thing in half because it was a tiny oven, and I never would have known. I would have thought that everybody in the world cuts their prime rib in half because that's how you do a prime rib. So unless you're doing these things, the subtleties are lost. And these are the family stories. Cooking is such a special way to transport you back in time to these loved ones. You gotta do it while we still have them.
Yeah, and that's kind of funny that you say that, because that's what a lot of people have. It's like, I see a lot of comments on my YouTube channel where people say, that's not how you're supposed to do it. That's not how it's supposed to be done. And I love those comments, because then people they're experiencing new things and they're starting to think about it. They're getting exposed to like, oh, he's not doing it the right way. I'm used to doing it a different way. And when they see me do it a second time, they think like, what? And then maybe they ask a question, or I get the opportunity to explain it, and they get exposed to new techniques and new ways to cook things. And I know that's where it gets interesting. And this is like you're thinking about a rib roast being cut into. If you think about it now, it's like, how did they come up with that?
I thought there was some science to it. So folks, knock down those barriers, get in there, wrestle your way into the kitchen with those loved ones' ways. So, PITMASTERX, you mentioned in our last episode number 4, about Yop.
5.
Oh, sorry. I get carried away. Yop, your grandfather. And if there was anybody in the history of time, who would you have a meal with and cook a meal with? What was that one memorable get-together meal that your grandfather Yop would go for?
He was a baker, so he would make sweet sugar bread. And sugar breads for me, I tried. The funny thing is, like, my grandmother, when my grandfather passed away, I always talked to my grandmother about how great the sugar bread was. But she didn't think it was that great, because there was too much sugar in it. It was unhealthy for him, and she didn't like it. And every time I told her, it's such a great recipe, and when grandfather made it, it was always fantastic. It was spot on. It was so nice and sweet, and these little chunks were there, and beautiful caramelization. And she says, "Well, don't worry about it. It's just a very simple recipe. You can find it. You can find it everywhere. Just buy a cookbook and don't worry about it." It's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. You cannot write that down on paper. It's like the whole vibe. It's an experience. It's his kitchen. In the Netherlands, we used to have these kitchens where you had the sink, and then there were these curtains in front of the shelves, so you had the shelves where the pots and the pans were, but you have the little curtains in front of it and the sink on top, and then like a little heater in front of you where like gas flame was running out, hot water was coming out. And that was their kitchen. I can still remember the way it looked. And he baked these beautiful sugar breads and oh man. If I think about it now, I can taste it. I can still taste it to this day.
You can smell it. I can
smell it. I can taste it. I can hear him talk. I can hear his voice. I can see the kitchen. It's a memory. That's what it is. And then And these things are like they are stronger than something on paper. So now if I make it myself, and I never made it with him, and I make it myself, it's not the same thing. There's something that he did, or the way he made his bread, that made it fluffy and at the same time super heavy with sugar. And when I make it, it's not that fluffy. There's something there, and it's not. And when I talk to people about it, or I watch videos about it from bakers, it's not the same thing. It's not the consistency that he made that I'm looking for. Yeah. One day.
The tricks with cutting in butter while baking, I made we celebrated Mother's Day here in the U.S. Last week, and I saw a strawberry shortcake recipe that my wife's mother Shuggies does, and instead of using a pastry cutter or two knives to cut in, my wife's dancing in the window right now. Hey, baby. Okay, see you having. Instead of using two knives or a pastry cutter to cut in the butter, she was using we talked about anyway, using a box cutter to get that cold butter shaved up in. That's the way to make biscuits, man. I mean, when you work with this generation of folks who have gone through the Great War, who have gone through food shortages, you notice they do things differently. Like for me and you going through quarantine and COVID-19 right now, I have learned to not use a box of gloves per video. I have learned not to use an entire roll of paper towels per video. I mean, it's incredible. And these Depression era folks that have gone through that, I mean, they will use all of the butter, and then they'll take the wrapper and put it above the stove and let it warm up, and they'll use that piece of paper that doesn't look like there's any butter left on it, and they'll use that to grease their pans. And they've always got half a tank of gas in their vehicles, petrol in their vehicles. They never let it go under half. They've always got a pair of shoes next to the door, and they know where they are. There are certain things that transcend food that we got to tap into while we still got these folks around. And I don't even know how we got on this point, but I want to call my freaking grandparents right now, and they're not here. That's tough. That's a bummer. That's tough.
That's a major bummer. It is.
It's cool though. It's part
hey, I was thinking you fired these questions at me, and I wasn't prepared. You didn't send me any of those, so here's one for you: picanha or tri-tip?
Oh, tri-tip for me for sure. Sorry for all the Brazilians out there. I do love that big fat cap on the outside of the picanha, but I'm going to say tri-tip. Is this a one-off? Do I need to answer this further, or am I just supposed to?
I just want to get into it because it's a thing for me. I love tri-tip as well. I got exposed to tri-tip later than I got exposed to picanha, and I kind of must say, I don't really, in the Netherlands, the prices of picanha are crazy right now because everybody buys picanha. It's a very popular cut. But the tri-tip is not very widely available, but the quality that is available is really good at a really decent price. And I feel that both the cuts are really, really close. And the tri-tip might be a little tougher, but flavor-wise, it's really good. So I really enjoy that, especially when it's got that nice little fat on top.
Now, when you're traveling around the United States regionally, it's done differently. This is a cut. Talking about the tri-tip here, this is a cut that popped up in the mid to late '50s in Berkeley, California. And they say the history of it was that a butcher had a whole steer butchery. Had enough ground beef, and they'd made their way all the way back to the bottom part of the top sirloin, and they didn't need any more ground beef. This was a cut that was usually ground up and turned into sausages and burgers. And so he found this triangular piece that he was able to follow the sinew, cut it off, cooked it up for the employees for lunch, for family meal, and everybody loved it. Thus, the tri-tip was born. And I've heard that from several people from Texas, from Louisiana, Tennessee, California. So I like that lore, that story. But when you go down to Texas and you talk about it being a little tougher, bro, they'll barbecue it in the sense that they'll cook it low and slow in a liquid, and they'll shred it. I mean, they'll cook it to the point. When I say shred, I don't mean with a knife. I mean like pull it like barbecue, pulled pork
beef.
Almost.
Yeah. Get it all the way to pulled beef. Okay.
I've never done it that way, but I've seen butcher shops that have their own counters where you can go in and like order sandwiches and stuff, and it says tri-tip, and it looks like stringed out beef, and there's guajillo and ancho and big bold Latin flavors in there, and you can imagine having a pulled beef sandwich. I think that's your next video, bro.
Oh yeah, yes it is.
Like, is it truly possible to take a non-prime, let's say a choice, and I do like to go non-prime.
Let's just make it clear. Here in Europe, getting prime is very hard. So
good. That's why I don't like seeing videos with it. Because what's the point if everybody? I mean, it's cool every once in a while, but give me something I can get myself.
Yeah, that's why I like to get, and that's why I'm also choose. If you ask me Wagyu or USDA, you asked me USDA prime, right?
I said USDA prime or Wagyu just because we're talking about super high quality cuts with big intermuscular fat.
Yeah, and most of the time it's Black Angus, 100 days grain fed. It gets up to USDA prime, and that's why I'm choosing USDA prime, because Black Angus or Angus is widely available here, and in Europe they don't finish as long as in America, but when they finish longer, I really enjoy that there's more fat to play around with, and it makes, in the end, it makes the meat more juicy and more flavorful. So I think that's really valuable, and and having that idea, then doing the tri-tip low and slow and get it all the way to pulled with a little bit of marbling intramuscular fat on the inside and that little fat cap on top, dressing in, and then getting like these tacos out and having a beautiful hot spicy salsa.
Guys, for those of you who aren't watching this on YouTube, you're on Spotify or iTunes, PITMASTERX is getting jiggy with it. He is shoulder shimmying, getting down on this tri-tip. I cannot wait to see it pop up on my alerts that PITMASTERX YouTube has put out the pulled tri-tip sando. That's
going to happen.
I bet it is. I'm
going to plan it.
The tri-tip will forever go down in my history book as really introducing me to the reverse sear. It's a cut that's just large enough to treat as a roast, or you can grill it straight, but I find it's better if you kind of low and slow and creep the temperature up, and it's marbled enough to let that intermuscular fat, all the collagen, break down and turn into gelatin. And then you've done a good job of getting it to an internal temperature, then taking it off and let it rest, bring the grill back up to, 600-700 degrees Fahrenheit, and then blast sear the outside. That is food sport. That is food sport incarnate. I'm driving, I'm doing my laps, and then boom, it's time to go. That's fun. That's hands-on cooking. That's playing with temperatures, interacting with the live fire. That's why I got interested in tri-tip. You actually introduced me to picanha. You didn't. I mean, I knew about it for years, but I never messed with it. I always knew about it as the culotte steak, and I had it on my menu for years in the restaurants. But I never served it with the big fat cap on. I always had it cap off. I feel like if I had a time machine, I could go back. I would have done it differently. But you and I, there's a video out there where we skewered them on swords, we roasted them in the Kamado Joe over big block charcoal, and then we did a sherry cream sauce, I believe it was, with some morels, maybe. I don't know. You remember?
Could be. No, I don't. Yeah, I remember the rotisserie. I can't remember the sauce. I'm not. My memories on sauces are not that great. That's why I can make a new one every time, because I forget the old ones.
If you haven't seen it, it's new to you. Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, we got to go to Brazil then. We got to go to these churrascarias and visit them and learn from the Brazilian pitmaster and of course the Argentinian pitmasters, because they're doing things. They're doing things that I haven't seen before. Like if they put a whole lamb, they set it up next to the fire, and then they take this bottle, put a little bit of water in it, put a little bit of vinegar in it, and some limes, some olive oil, and some fresh herbs, and they shake it around. They just sprinkle it on the meat, and I don't know why. Sometimes they put wine in it, and they put all kinds of things in it to keep the meat moist and to get flavor on. But to me, it's a lot of waste. But there's some reason, because it's next to the fire. They want to cool down the meat in some places. They want to make sure it's moist. But does it leave so much flavor? We need to go there. We need to experience these things, because we can do it in our backyards, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it almost, you talked about this a couple episodes ago. It's almost like mopping with your, you talk about wine. It's got a little acidity to it. When you see whole hog cookery, and we talked about that pit that you're going to build in your backyard, and I can't wait to see that. Taking the mop and hitting the vinegar sauces on there and build. I think it's about layering, but you've got to watch out with that. I find sometimes when you splash liquids on food that's cooking for low and slow, it and in my mind anyway, it starts to perpetuate evaporation. And I feel like if you don't do it properly, have some sort of fat content in there. And I love the aromatic vegetables. I love the idea of big garlics, or like chilies and building those flavors. But I feel like you've got to have some sort of fat in there. I wonder if they're doing some sort of fat.
Yeah, they have it like an olive oil in there, but in the end, it's like I think you have to experience it first, taste it to get a good reference, to understand what they're doing, how many times they're doing it, because you're not getting it in the videos. It's not. They all speak Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. I don't know, but I want to ask you another question.
Oh,
if you have to choose between pork ribs or pork jaws, what would it be forever?
Jaws. No question. No
Why?
question. You
Why?
can't mess them up.
Why?
You can't mess them up. The collagen is just so deep. I find doing a 2-to-1 ratio of brown sugar to salt, and you don't want much, right? For a whole jowl, and the jowl's not much bigger than our jowls, right? If you could take a jawbone, probably I'd say 3 tablespoons of brown sugar to 1.5 tablespoon of kosher salt, and take lemon, lime, and orange, 1 each, and zest them all into it, and pack that on the outside. Let it sit on the jowl for 2 hours, an hour to 2 hours. Dab off the liquid that rises to the top from the salt and sugar, and low and slow that baby for about 4 hours, and then wrap it.
It's better than ribs, right?
Well, it's
come
a
on,
tough
it's
call.
better
It's a
than
great-
ribs, Eric. It's better than ribs. And this is I like to say everybody knows, but nobody knows. Nobody knows. Why are everybody making ribs? Why isn't everybody making jaws?
The jowls and the cheeks. If you offer me the cheek off of any animal that's large enough to have a good-sized cheek, like salmon or larger, I'm going cheek. Does that make sense? Salmon? I mean, it's like, I'm not going chicken cheeks. I never really thought to. I've cooked the.
It's coming. It's coming. I can hear it. He's thinking
I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it.
Chicken cheeks.
I can just see the nicknames coming up now if I tell you what I've eaten off a chicken.
cheeks.
I've eaten it all. I've eaten it all. I've eaten it all in in third world countries where it's 2 weeks old and no refrigeration. I've eaten it all.
Horrible.
Anyway.
That's a kind of like a funny thing to mention because we're reaching people worldwide. And the funny thing is that the cultures are different, the ways of prepping are different. And in a lot of countries where it's warm and meat is sold at the market and everything okay, Eric?
Yeah, I just looking at my... I was
Is
just
it
wondering
recording?
Yeah, it's recording. Everything's okay. I just wonder if that battery, it shows empty. I just wonder if it's going to die.
Okay.
I'm watching. Sorry. Go ahead. I just make sure I'm still recording.
So, yeah. That's how do we pick this up? So, in every culture, it's different the way they store meat, and sometimes they sell meat at the market which is unrefrigerated, and people come home and they wash the meat. It's something you do. You wash the meat. In Europe, you don't wash meat. It is butchered, it is processed, and it is packaged, and you take it out of the package, but you don't wash it. But this is something that is not accepted worldwide as properly hygienic. What's your stand on that? We're
doing it in the U.S. I see people. You're taking chicken straight out of the package, putting it in the sink, and turning water on.
Sink? Yeah.
I see you doing it to pork butts. I see you doing it to chicken. People, what the hell are you doing? What the hell you think you're washing off? There's no blood. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, take a paper towel.
And they put it in chlorinated water then, because most of the water from the tap is chlorinated, right? In the US.
I don't know if it's chlor. Yeah, it's there's fluoride in it. I know that. But listen, I want to tell you this: if you think you're doing something to like wash salmonella off, you need to think about that. That's like the dumbest thing ever. All you're doing is splashing salmonella everywhere, and then you're gonna tell me, yeah, but then I take whatever. Quit washing the freaking meat. It's the dumbest thing ever. You know what I mean? You take that package straight out of the grill, you open it up, you throw it on the grill. You can season while it's on the grill grates, making no mess here, folks. No mess. I'm all about it.
See?
Yeah.
Don't wash your meat unless you bought it at an African market.
Even if you want, I mean, you're not getting rid of anything like trichinosis.
No, but sometimes I saw some meats that are on markets which are unrefrigerated, where a lot of flies were on the meat and all things were happening. I would wash my meat too. If I bought meat, I would rather go vegetarian there than eat meat. But if I would eat that meat, it would be washed. You're
talking about washing, but what you really mean is rinsing off. You know what I mean? So you're rinsing off any physical hazards you might be able to see, but anything microscopic on
Worms,
there, it ain't coming off.
Flies.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about the wet markets in China and stuff. I mean, this is how we got into this whole COVID thing to begin with. Like
rinse it off.
A pangolin stacked on top of a bat with frogs on top, and then we decided we're going to eat the damn thing. We need to go to China and check out some crazy stuff. Not too crazy, but crazy stuff.
Let's do the wet market eating challenge.
Oh my gosh. I mean, before all this went down, that would be like my grandest dream. But I would really give some things second thoughts now, you know?
Yeah. That's a good
I don't want to start a pandemic, okay?
Yeah. You don't want to be that one guy. He's the source. He created this pandemic. His body did it. He was the first.
Yeah, somebody.
You're not ground zero, but person zero.
Person zero. Yeah. You had mentioned, I threw in the lightning round at you. I said chicken or seafood, and you really debated, until I said a lot of shellfish would be considered in there. There's some other things. But then I think once you pondered it for a little bit, it seemed like a light bulb went off, and it seemed like a very easy answer for you, and you said seafood. What was it that went through your mind that totally was that aha moment? What's that seafood item that you love to grill up?
There's so many. I'm not freezing. I'm just thinking about it.
You're
The
freezing.
thing is like
the chicken
but the thing
versus
is, you're
seafood.
asking me the same as like if you would be eating beef forever or meat forever, what is your trigger? But the thing is
Seafood.
like
Seafood.
everything, yeah. You're asking me seafood, but everything. There's so much in the sea. We got octopus, we got fishes, we got clams, we got sea crocodiles, we got sharks, we got.
You're not eating no damn sea crocodiles.
Why not? They're
You're out of your
edible.
mind.
The sea snakes, whales. People are eating whales. Why not? Eat
I'm not
whales.
into that. I tell you what. I tell you what.
Why
I'm not
not?
into. I
Why?
think any animal that makes you, when you're surrounded with them in their natural environment, and you all of a sudden feel like you're part of the food chain. Have you ever had that? Have you ever been around, like been to Africa and been out there walking around and there's lions and stuff? It's getting dark, and it's all of a sudden you're like, I am not at the top of the food chain right now. That feeling is incredible. And when you see those lions, you would never think in a million years, I want to see that on my grill. Like, that is not in your mind. And for the rest of your life, something happens and you say, like apex predators, not into it. Like great white shark, don't want to grill it. Somebody out there saying, I want to try a great white shark. You're an idiot. You don't. I'm telling you. Like, there's something about apex predators. And I'm not talking about like cleanliness or what they're eating. I don't know.
It's the difference. Listen up. This is the difference between food that lives in the ocean and food that lives on land. Food that lives on land, and especially, for instance, cows. You got wild animals like a zebra or I don't know, something close, oxes, like an ox. Take a wild ox. And take a domesticated cow, which we've bred and made specifically for consumption. It tastes so freaking good that you don't want to eat that ox anymore. A wild ox will not taste as near as good as a homebred domestic cow. And this is the thing. It's like if you go to the sea, fish tastes good. Fish tastes good. So you don't have to think about enhancing fish. You don't have to enhance fish. It tastes good. So this is the difference between a predator on land or like a predator in the sea. What are you drinking now? Now you have like, what's that? A water bowl. You're drinking water.
Oh, it's no water bowl. No.
This is what?
This is the chili guaro.
I don't know what that is.
I'm not lying. It's a chili guaro. Chili guaro, baby. It's like
That's
it's
a nice
like a
name
spicy.
for a water bowl.
It's like it's like a spicy. I know. I was listening to you about the ocean. I find it interesting too that you can eat anything out of the ocean raw. Like anything that you can physically eat out of the ocean, and it's like.
Yeah, and it tastes good. That's the good thing about it. It tastes good. If you have sea urchins, they taste good.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
But if you eat in like something equivalent on land, you don't want to eat it.
Or even freshwater.
Yeah. But why is it better in the sea than on land? Why does it immediately taste good? It's just better. Seafood is better. Land animals, we had to improve. We had to take the cow, we had to breed it until we had the Black Angus or the Japanese Wagyu to get to the point where I say, wow, this is fantastic. This is really, really good. But if you eat a sea urchin out of the sea, you just walk into the sea, make sure you don't step on it, get your knife out, open it up, slurp it up, and you have an amazing, amazing experience. And it tastes so freaking fantastic. You don't need to enhance it. You just need to leave it alone. A little bit of salt water straight from the sea. It tastes fantastic. That's it.
I love
clams.
And the ocean's
fish.
a baseline. The ocean's a baseline for so many things. Like when you work with the master mozzarella makers in Italy, and you're like, how much salt should I use? And they say, ocean water.
Yeah. It's beautiful. That's it. Yeah. And it's the same thing like the discussion you started with predators. You don't want to eat an apex predator. How about barracuda? They taste fantastic. Shark,
baby ones.
taste fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not into I'm
not saying we should eat them all, but with moderation, of course. The only thing where we're going wrong with seafood is where we are starting to produce them in a non-sustainable way.
Oh,
So,
I'd
I
say
don't know
there's
if
a
you-
lot we're doing wrong with the oceans right now with overfishing and
They got this, about these rice fields where they're growing prawn.
Yeah.
You ever saw that? It's like
I've seen it firsthand. Yes.
There's something so wrong with that. I can't wrap my mind around it, and the problem that I have with that is I'm not able to see on the package where it comes from and how it's grown, how it's raised, and how it's processed, and that's a little bit troubling for me. I don't know.
What I would suggest is look for some approved sites, and I think for me this is a hot button issue for me. Sustainable aquaculture has been given a bad name for many, many years from some of these raised chickens on top of catfish and basa and shrimp, like you say. But if you look at websites like Global Aquaculture Alliance, and I'm giving everybody out there a tool to really delve into what's going to help us feed our future. Global Aquaculture Alliance will go out there and give star ratings to some of these sustainable aquaculture farms. So if you're getting a tuna, if you're ordering something on the menu and you see their logo on there, the chef really cares about the earth and way things are happening and has really kind of got their finger on the pulse. I love eel more than anything on earth, but once you learn the fact that they're just using baby eels and eels don't reproduce until they're after 3 years old, then you're like, oh, okay, I need to think about this. I need to find a farm that's actually harvesting these eels after they're 3 years old. And how do you know? You go to places like Global Aquaculture Alliance and see the ratings and kind of educate yourself. But we could spend a whole podcast, not just a podcast, but have an entire podcast just talking about terrestrial and aqua forms of sustainable farming and aquaculture. I mean, it's incredible some of the stuff that's happening right now. I'm working with a lot of farms that are delving into it, tapping into ancient styles of farming and pushing the boundaries on things you can do. One of them's Quarry Arctic salmon. Like, you look at what they're doing, you talk about salmon getting sea lice and certain farms throwing pesticides and antibiotics and all this stuff. They kind of look at the natural environment and they bring in an algae that the lumpsucker fish eats, and that also eats the sea lice. I mean, it's look at nature. Nature's got the answer.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And don't mess with it.
Damn right.
That's the thing. Yeah. Hey, we got something on the grill. We got 5 minutes left in this podcast.
That's fine because I got a 700-degree soapstone and I've got pork flank steak.
Ooh, nice. Let's start cooking. What do you put? Salt on it?
Like
salt, pepper? Or salt?
Say again?
What do you got on it? Salt? Seasoned it?
I haven't seasoned it yet. I'm going to throw it on the grill and season it there because I don't want to dirty anything up.
Season it afterwards. Season it afterwards.
How about this? I got 2 of them. I was going to do one on the soapstone, one on the grill grate. I'm going to season one before and one after, and we'll do a 4-minute test since we got 5 minutes left in this thing.
You just wasted one.
Nobody asked you. I don't even know why I talked to you.
Come on, give us that sizzle. I want to hear that sizzle.
I got earphones on. I can't hear anything.
Hey, put the mic, the podcast mic near it.
I will. I'm seasoning this one the way it ought to be done.
You look like one of those RV owners that sits down while barbecuing.
Yeah. You're hilarious.
Well, tell me I'm wrong. Now his camera is falling down. This is getting funnier. I hope you people are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Watch this on YouTube. I'm gonna do slow motion rerun. I'm sorry. This is too funny.
I'm going a little savory maple, which is really fun because I like maple and pork. I do. I love that combination. Okay, I'm going to flip both of them now. So one of the pork flank steaks has seasoning on it. The other does not. PITMASTERX loves to season thin meats after they've been sliced. So almost finish seasoning. I like to season it up before I put a big sear on there to kind of caramelize and build in. I'm going to do a taste test, and I'm going to be completely non-biased. And I will.
You're not non-biased. You love what I do. You want to have a sunset walks on the beach with me. I know you do.
Flipping.
So, Chef Eric, if you would have to climb the Kilimanjaro with a Joe Jr. on your back,
yeah,
or travel with sled hounds all the way to the I'm looking for the word for that top ring, all the way to the
Arctic
to
Circle,
the North Pole, Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
So which one would you choose?
I've always been a fan of the Iditarod. Sled racing, which is not in the Arctic Circle, it is Alaska. But I've also done the research on. I've not done Kilimanjaro, but I've looked at some big mountains and thought about a junior. Bro, that junior's pretty heavy. And so if that's if that's all you're giving me, I'm gonna have to go with the sled dogs for sure, because I'm not carrying that damn junior up a hill, a big hill.
Oh, I'll give you some wheels. I'll give you a little cart.
A little cart. Yeah. You know, I did look into going up Mount Everest and throwing a block party on at base camp. You know, started looking at that, and then I started reading that book, Into Thin Air, and then like looking into it, and all these hikers for the past decade have just been ditching their air tanks, and it's like a dump up there because everybody carries stuff up and never carries stuff down. And I was like, I'm just gonna be depressed if I go up there. Like I wanted to get up there because it was this untouched resource, and it's just beautiful, and there's flags everywhere and trash everywhere, and like you pass on average 150 people at base camp each. I'm not into it anymore. However, I would like to go to Nepal and try some of that red honey. You seen that?
Where?
Nepal.
Yeah. Red honey.
Yeah. I'm glad this is at the end of the podcast. So everybody, not everybody's listening right now. This is that honey where the bees are like harvesting the pollen and everything and the nectar from like some kind of hallucinogenic plant, and then they're going and making the honey on the cliffs.
Nice.
And when you eat the honey, you're hallucinating, and like there's all these dumb people going out there, and like and the honey's like the comb's built really weird. It's called red honey. Check it out.
Red honey. Google it late night. Google late night version. All right. So is it done yet? Can we eat?
It is done, because I like to take my pork to medium.
Good. That's something that not many people dare to do, but I really suggest you try cooking your pork chops. Of course, you got to be sure that you get it from the right person. But you know why people are scared of pork? It's because people used to raise their pork at home and fed it everything. And basically, if you feed pork old and you're dancing? Is it that good?
I tried a little piece that was stuck on the soapstone. Or should I go?
It was a season after or a season before?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a season piece. I'm taking them off now. For those of you
Remember,
For those of you watching on YouTube, I'm holding them up so you can. For those of you watching on YouTube, I'm going to hold them up so you can see the caramelization difference between the two.
Oh boy. See, this is the part where I start breathing heavily again.
Seasoned and not seasoned.
Yeah.
Oh my.
The season one looks good.
Yeah, they're both great.
So what knife are you using to slice it, Eric?
I got this crazy freaking shun Japanese steel. We had a big talk earlier in the podcast. It's a Damascus, and it's freaking huge, bro. It's like a freaking samurai sword. I love this thing. I would guesstimate 12 inches by 3.5 to 4 inches.
Did you chip it?
No.
Is it chipped?
It's not chipped.
Ah,
I'm going to chip your face. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? What's wrong with that?
I want to chip your face. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we just got to the end of the podcast. This is the last episode. Thank you very much.
Oh, no! All right. I put about 5 slices on both ends, and I've got. I'm going to go ahead and season the non-seasoned flank with the same rub, and then I'm going to kind of toss it in some of those juices, and I'm not going to do any finishing salt on the one that I seasoned before the sear. Okay?
Yeah, okay.
All right, so we've got the 2 steaks here side by side. I've tasted them. I've chewed them on camera for those of you watching YouTube. PITMASTERX, I got to say you're kind of onto something here. Now, I'm not going to say that one is better than the other if you have an option.
Of course you will. The people expect that of you. They need to know.
Nope. Let me finish, because I almost said it perfect. I'm dyslexic, and I'll get this confused. I'm not going to say one is better than the other if I have the option to do both. Now, if I have the option to season and get the caramelization on the outside due to that maple, and that's why I want to use that maple, not just to bring sweetness, but to bring caramelization into the bark, then I like the power in seasoning beforehand. And now that I cut and I have new surface area that's not seen sear surface or seasoning, to be able to roll that in and finish is magic. So I see a combination of not only seasoning beforehand, but also hitting and rolling around in the residual juices on the board and seasoning to be the best possible answer. Boom. In your face.
You're such a pussy. Just go out and say seasoning afterwards is better.
It's just not. It's just not.
No, I respect your opinion, Eric, and I must agree. If you're seasoning with all that rub, it's fantastic to have it on and season afterwards. Double season, just go all in, have it flavored. I love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, looking good. Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you for cooking for us today, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So I'm getting hungry here. I'm just gonna, after this podcast, I'm gonna dive into my fridge and I'm gonna find something to eat. This is still something I need to figure out. I eat crackers with cheese afterwards, just so you know I'm suffering here, because you get to eat all the good food.
I think you should have something to eat during the podcast, because you get a little hangry after like minute 35. So yeah, just keep you off my back a little bit. But this was a great podcast. Folks that are listening, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We love you guys. We love all the questions. Keep DMing us those great things you want to hear about. My good friend PITMASTERX, brother, thank you for a wonderful hour of hanging out. Can't wait to talk to you next week.
Awesome. It's my pleasure. Don't forget to follow Eric on Instagram. Check out our YouTube channel, our Spotify, our iTunes, and of course, PITMASTERX on YouTube. See you guys next week. Peace out.
Ik smakelen.
Bye-bye. Doei doei.
Doei doei.